Drake, the most amazing dancer in the whole planet.
Listen, I hate to do this over the phone. You're getting hurt, and I can't watch you work like this. I'm gonna take you out for a while.
You're a mom now. Just give yourself a break.
Who's ready for a little bit of this?
You know, I can still dance.
Des, what's happening? She's injured.
I don't think I can stand on it. You're gonna have to. Break your body for me. Oh, my body's broke. You are very lucky people. Crush them. You don't remember any of this, do you?
The gods made you great.
Adam's
Yeah,
here all week,
that's
folks.
That's right.
Tip your waiters.
Welcome, Daphne Rubin-Vega and Jayce Bartok.
Thanks for having us, Adam.
To the podcast, and we're talking primarily about the film Fall to Rise. I think by the time this comes out, that this other film, Emoticon,
Oh, yeah.
is coming out tomorrow. I think it's coming. Because I know the producer, and I had them on. Because the producer, Danelle, who I know has a little history with The Labyrinth, right? So maybe that's how she knows you know each other. Danelle Aliav, who is a producer on this movie, Emoticon. Anyway, the timing will probably be that will already have been a past tense thing, is my guess. Anyway, but you're in that too.
Yes.
So you're busy.
Yes. Well, you know, it's funny because you shoot a film and then it happens. I mean, we started with this a couple of years ago.
Oh my God, we were in this living room. The address will not be divulged.
In Chelsea.
I shouldn't have tweeted that?
In New York City.
Sorry, Daphne. Forgive me.
Don't get them started out there because they stole her pants on the set. There was a crazy Rent fan that stole her clothes on our set. But
He claims it was a Rent fan. I just think it was a crazy person that wanted my...
Totally a Rent fan. But
maybe they needed to understand the meaning behind the expression. Get into somebody's pants. They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't get it.
Totally.
Really.
You know.
We were here a year ago for rehearsal.
Wait, okay. So you talk into it, and then when Daphne talks,
I hand it to
this gives or just put it closer. I'm sorry, because it'll sound better.
I'm gonna punch you right.
Don't do that.
But we shot test footage 3, maybe 4 years ago, and then we did a reading at Playwrights Horizons. We'll just say 4+ years ago.
Yes.
With an entirely different cast, except for you, really.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It was Elizabeth Berkley, love her. Eddie Vassallo, God rest Eddie.
Who's that?
Eddie Vassallo is an actor, a friend of ours, compatriot, member of the Labyrinth Theater Company, who just passed early on this year.
Oh.
But he actually was in the film.
Yeah, he plays that scene where Daphne's character Sheila goes to the nightclub and sort of finds herself inadvertently in this unpleasant threesome. Beautiful scene. I mean,
it wasn't
as
unpleasant
threesomes
at
go,
that moment.
yes,
right. No,
it was an emotional scene as
yes,
threesomes
it was.
go.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Now I
So
sound
is
like
that
a total moron?
So that was the male counter. That was the man in that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Ed Vassallo.
Yeah, and Ed produced a film that won South by. It's a huge film. I'm not going to remember the name of it.
Well, how many years ago?
Kings
of
Come on, Adam. King.
You're throwing to King Kelly.
King Kelly.
Oh yeah.
He was one of the producers.
Scary, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a pretty awesome movie, I have to say. Like when you're watching, you're like, "Oh, I can't take this. I got to get out of here."
Yeah.
But then you're in, you're just like, "Oh my God, that was like."
You're in.
Yeah, because it's just so over the top, but not everything over the top works, you know. That movie, King Kelly, go check it out, everybody.
Yes.
But
it's very good.
Ed's amazing. But the movie had a funny journey because first we I had another film called The Cake Eaters, and we sort of had this luck with that, and then we got Mary Street Masterson to direct it. So we thought, okay, with this film, which was called Tiny Dancer at the time, we'll find a director and try that formula. So we initially went to Melissa Joan Hart, who's a friend of ours.
Okay.
And Melissa wanted sort of let's try to get all these Charlize Theron and all these people. So we tried. This was 7 years ago. We tried for a year, and then that that kind of stopped. And then we went to Jackson Gay, who's a big theater director, who I had worked with, and we put the reading together. And Sheila, you were always Sheila, but how did that happen, Daphne? Who got that idea? Like
Which
you remember
idea?
the conversation where I was like, "You are Sheila."
Well, the way I track it is you asked me to do a reading, and we did that reading with Elizabeth and Josh and Ed and Yule, and Jackson directed it, and it was very funny. It was a comical piece, and it was a little bit like it was more
campy.
It was very campy, but it was a bit of a parody on it was more of a dancer's of the principal dancer's story, and how she navigated, having a baby and sort of transitioning out of being, prima ballerina.
Ballet. It was definitely set in the ballet world, and all the ballet stereotypes. This was pre-Black Swan, like very ballet.
Right, as opposed to modern dance company.
Right. Which it ended up being.
Right.
It was ballet, and so yes, it was much more parody.
Lots of funny accents, and like guys that are really good looking, but they turn out to be gay, but then they turn out to be straight. It was in the reaction, like people, it was very funny. Like people were really laughing. But Daphne was so amazing as Sheila, like so unbelievable, and so we knew that we had like a story that, at least from Sheila's point of view, worked. And then maybe it was a year later, like we went nonprofit through NYFA. We raised a little bit of money to shoot like 3 days of test footage. And we found Katherine Crockett to play Lauren Drake, the lead dancer. Because we love Elizabeth, but we were like, let's try to do something different. Let's cast somebody that can really dance. Not that Elizabeth can't dance. Oh my God, everyone's going to hate me. Elizabeth can really dance.
She sure
Let's stay away from Elizabeth.
Yeah.
We went with Katherine because we were like, all right, this is the right person for the part. Just making it sound worse.
No, I think
Taking yourself in.
What
No,
I
don't worry
keep
about
thinking is how economics inform the making of a piece of anything, art, and I think that like just the flexibility of Jayce and Tiffany sometimes, like in the writing, Tiffany Bartok,
Producer of the film, who can't be here right now but sends her love.
of how flexible they were in telling the story, and how the story actually changed because time had passed, other projects had come and gone, and I kind of, and they just stayed on me, and I stayed on board. But then the story became not ballet, it became modern, and it became more about two individuals grappling with their obsessions and the fallout of that.
Finding their way. I mean, I think it was very much Lauren Drake's story. And Sheila was like this amazing friend, and everyone loved Sheila. Like people were like, Sheila's like amazing. And I think Lauren Drake's character sort of had to find her way too, because in the earlier script, there were like eating disorders and these stereotypes. And then I remember going in to audition for Black Swan.
You did?
Yeah, and meeting Darren, and I'm like the biggest fan. And I remember thinking like, should I tell him that like?
Who'd you audition for?
Oh my God! It was basically these two guys that hit on Mila Kunis in a bar, and Natalie, and it's that scene, and they all take like ecstasy or something. So I went in to read from him, and I was like, should I tell him that I've been working on this dance movie for years? And then in the back of my head, I was like, I'm totally screwed because no one's made like a ballet film in ages, and now like
Turning Point might have been the last one,
right? And now like one of my idols is making a ballet film,
right?
So Tiffany and I were like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the film and liking the film, and then so many of the characters in the film were from Tiny Dancer. It was those kind of stock characters, like the Machiavellian dance master. So I think we sort of did like a 360, and we were like, we have to sort of reimagine this film.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we had shot the test footage then or not, but anyway, I think the decision to cast Katherine, or at least test Katherine with you in that sort of test footage, was a result of that, and then Katherine's a modern dancer. She's a Martha Graham dancer. And then with that came Desmond Richardson, who plays Des, who's such a great, refreshing take on that whole angle of the dance master,
Yeah, he's great.
And I think you and I talked a lot. I remember the fateful time we went to your house and we were talking.
There was a flood in my house. There was a flood
here?
in my house upstate. No.
Upstate.
We have a lovely house upstate. So we were flaunting it and enjoying it. And then the next thing we knew, it was Irene, and the kids were in the basement saying, "There's water in the basement." And that was like the beginning of the end.
Yeah, we were like showing her the test footage, and we were sort of talking about
5 words that nobody wants to hear.
Right.
There's water in the basement.
There's water in the basement. Nobody ever wants to hear there's water in the basement. Yeah. And we were talking about Sheila's development, because at the time the movie was sort of like, we were playing with like faux documentary techniques.
Yes, right.
You know, like,
but give a little synopsis of Fall to Rise, so people have a context to that.
It follows two women, one who basically is, for lack of a better word, a bit of a burnout. So, and she dances in this after hours puppet show. Yeah. And her name's Sheila, and she teaches kids ballet by day, but says inappropriate things to them, and sort of was in the company for a brief moment, but has made a life outside of it, but is not in any way a whole person. The other lady is a very famous dancer, extremely famous dancer, and she blows out her knee and gets cut from the company. And the two of them meet, in a kind of very coincidental way at a gala, like we all do in New York. We go to different events. You see somebody you went to acting school with, and the fortunes of both are in different places, but they share this common ground in that they're both excommunicated, and they're and they basically see something in each other, and they want more of it. They're drawn to each other, and for this brief moment in the course of the film, they help each other navigate their ghosts, their obstacles, their damage, and they come out on the other end okay, but potentially not lifelong friends.
Right, and it's also you get the sense, very well done. You also get a sense.
Too many words for the elevator pitch.
Oh, yeah, it's an escalator pitch.
You didn't have enough time to shorten it.
You did a good job. But it also realizes what an intense an environment, and the rejection from being ejected or what have you from this company is, it's far more of a rejection than not getting a role, that kind of rejection, or a lover rejecting you. This is such an intense place. That anybody who's in this company, this defines them, And so coming out of there, it's obviously stayed with these two people. Well, it's very fresh wound, but with Sheila's character, the wound is still open. It's still fresh. I mean, it's
and I think
years later,
Daphne, you and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I think finding a way into the story, because Tiffany, who is my wife and the producer, she used to dance, and I think she had the idea to make a film about this famous dancer that's sort of out of control, modeled a bit on Gelsey Kirkland, who wrote a famous book, Dancing on My Grave, and had problems with drugs and dated Baryshnikov, and it started out as a documentary about Gelsey. About 7 years ago, and we were going to meet with Gelsey one fateful Thanksgiving night. She canceled and then got a position, at ABT or one of the big companies, and didn't really want to delve into her dirt. So I said, well, Tiffany, let's write a fictional, character. So she wrote that monologue that Sheila gives to the little girls, that kind of like your feet are going to bleed, that maniacal and hilarious monologue that she lectures her students. But I think for me, I was like, I don't know anything about dance. Like, I can barely walk down the street, like literally. And I think finding a way in for me, as we got close to making it, was about being an actor and sort of equating the life of an actor with the life of a dancer, which has a lot of similarities, the life of a performer, basically, and sort of seeing where things go, friends that become extremely famous, moments where you sort of, in retrospect, pin your hopes to what could have been, and this kind of this story about these two people who, Sheila is just as talented as Lauren, but hasn't had her moment. And Lauren has had her moment, but is lacking, in something inside. And the two of them together is, find this kind of thing. So that was a way in it for me. And I remember you opening the door here, rehearsal, like a year ago, and you started to cry. You were just like, I'm so full with Sheila. Like, this is such a time for me to be playing this part right now. And what were you?
I think that, for me, just having stayed with the project and having watched the evolution of the story, what what I kept about Sheila, or what I found most interesting and lovable, perhaps, about this person is that she keeps standing, like, after all the rejection. There's a real identification with, they call, short careers and eating disorders is the short way of, identifying dancers. But, there's the music industry, there's modeling, there's acting and musicians, people who perform and create out of, their physical selves mostly get, the like I said, fall out of that.
Yeah, the chewed up and spit out in a way. It's true that all those industries tend to.
Yeah, it has its particular quality of rejection, which, we can find and attach to anything in life. I mean, we're all in the same sort of boat. Yeah. But there's a particular kind of emphasis or magnification about that aspect of career with dancing or with acting. And I could I was really feeling it, and...
Me too. God, it was terrible.
And I think that it was a really cathartic experience to completely embody the character that has been so hurt or has regrets and pain about how she did her life, and how to sort of recycle that by making a decision to help someone else that feels disenfranchised by the career, that world, but also to have an incredible courage to be a nobody. I think that was the really amazing thing that I wanted to explore, was somebody who has that kind of courage.
Yeah, who could stand.
I don't have it.
She could stand in the sidelines and help build up, Catherine's, second act or what have you. But maybe that was this reflexive understanding about this is more healthy for
Sheila.
For her. Yeah, Sheila was realizing, I shouldn't be thrust into this again because that's not going to be healthy for me.
Yeah.
Whereas
she had her own problems, but she wasn't going to go there.
Yeah. I also wanted to say, you described it so aptly and so well, the level of what that particular sense of being, not being able to process or get closure from that kind of, being moving out of one of those disciplines, whether it's even modeling or acting, what have you. But on top of also what your film, Jayce, did really well was show a company, even though you didn't see as much of the company, it was more like the aftermath of these two people leaving it. But you get a sense of, it's so intense, it's so emotionally intense, a place to live for however many years that you're there. Compiled with being asked to leave, it's too harsh. There's no transition. it's. I could see it being really. You, Daphne, of course, are known for being in the original cast of Rent, right? Mm-hmm. How long were you in Rent? How long was your run in Rent? Go ahead.
From the beginning, I was in a workshop of Rent before I was in the workshop that went to Broadway, let's say.
Okay.
So I'd have to add the years together, but once the workshop went from off-Broadway to on-Broadway, I think that my experience in that whole trajectory was 18 non-stop months before I left. And then I did, I think I opened San Francisco, something, but for like a couple of months, but that was that.
But you were one character throughout? You played the same character throughout all the time? Or the majority of that time?
Mimi.
Yeah. So you played Mimi. So that was always you founded that character, and that was okay. Because I'm just wondering if that was something you can relate to, in the sense maybe you had that also in your experience in being in a cast like that, and with such a big success, and it's very intense. You're living, this is your family for those 18 months, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm not sure I understand the question.
My mistake then. I'm just trying to draw like a parallel between being in a dance company like
to be in the ensemble of Rent. And
right. Yeah. And when and what that intensity, I'm not saying that you're left it under the same circumstances, because clearly you didn't, but you know what it's like to be in such an intense place and to grow up with these people, right? Because that had to be...
Yeah, I think I know where that's leading. I feel I can't really... Yeah, the difference was, I think, there was so much good and beautiful stuff, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I don't know, I guess I have to say, I kind of like anonymity. I like money, you know what I mean? I like things. I like working in shows that I like. But I also like to ride the subway. I felt that I think there was a certain point in my life. I know a lot of people don't like to ride the subway, and
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Uber too. Don't get me wrong. I love Uber.
I thought you meant you. I thought you meant you liked that you could ride the subway.
Exactly.
Was your point? Yeah.
So I like having the ability to navigate throughout New York City without being pestered. And I love that. And I love not feeling like I have to wear makeup or high heels to go out. So there's big parts that I don't miss. So if my ego starts to feel like rejected about this business because I'm not in anything as big as Rent, I remind myself that that's because I wasn't willing to pay the price, which is I'm not. I don't, I would probably be sort of a surly person, and I don't want to be that way.
Actually, I wasn't going there so much because, and I think I just did a really poor job of posing my question because I thought.
Forget it.
No, but I appreciate.
Did I not answer the right question?
No. Well, it doesn't matter because just hearing you talk about something that matters to you is great, and now I know about that. I am interested in what it is to be you and what it is to be a working actress and cope with what you described about fame, about anonymity, and having that. It's a brilliant place to be, and to choose to work in the kinds of roles you do and yet still be able to have the freedom of just sort of living in New York, raising a family in New York, of just sort of, it's great. I guess I wanted to kind of bring something up that I think listeners would immediately relate to, and your being a Rent is certainly one of those things. But also, I just think about being in an intense company of people. So when you talked about being anonymous and having that individual, I thought you were applying it there, where even though you're in this intense company, that you were also to yourself, and you. So you didn't get so overly attached to it, But I was more like just talking about coming out of that experience of being in that kind of huge and very extremely intense family of people, and then like coming out of that. It's bewildering on some level.
It's bewildering, and I think that I always kind of remind myself of. Just the speed and the track. Like sometimes, so you're working, so you get on that fast track, and then I like the fast track, but I like to get off it. I like to get off it, and I like to relax with my family. Like that I don't know, that just like sitting and doing nothing is really fantastic.
But I wonder that too, because I have a similar chip like that. Like I think not in any way, not near this anywhere near the success of Rent, but I think in my mind somewhere, like being in suburbia, like the film, and that Richard Linklater and that experience, not a big hit, but like many people in it, you sort of chart and compare, what definitely on good terms with people, but you look and you're like, oh, Giovanni's in another movie, and I'm auditioning for this soap commercial. So you find yourself playing these things in your head, and this sort of like with the comparing and contrasting. And I think that for me, I didn't see it so much with you and Rent and Sheila. I think that came from someplace else. But for me, finding my way in, I think that moment at the gala where they run into each other, and I look at that scene with the two of you on the top of the deck, and I think unintentionally, I shot it a lot like the scene where me and Giovanni Ribisi stand in front of a 7-Eleven and catch up. And it's sort of in a wide shot, and one's a rock star, and the other's just a kid in front of a 7-Eleven, and they try to communicate. And I think, wow, like 15 years later, I shot the same scene between Daphne Rubin-Vega and Katherine Crockett, one a famous dancer, one not, and they try to communicate. So I think your question to her, I think, had some impact, for me at least,
Good. Right.
in finding my way into these two ladies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, I sometimes can really also just sort of overcomplicate a question. I find it's my own cross,
You never know who it is.
my own cross to bear.
Brilliant.
Oh, that's what it is. I'm shamefully brilliant. That's what it says on my business cards. So when did you shoot? When did you shoot Volatile? When did that?
It was a
when
year ago. It was 2013.
Now.
So, yeah, it was a year ago.
Oh,
It was
okay.
April and May of 2013.
Okay, very
we
good.
made it. When I told you we were actually making it, and I think called your rep, and they were like, "Really?
Really?
This has been going on for so long." And
You're like, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Really?
I know. I was shocked, and I have to say, I think Tiffany and I were like, we don't want to make it. Like, how are we going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those situations, like I think I'm sure filmmakers that come on your show, where we had raised a bit of money, but not enough to make it. But then all of a sudden, a producer from the Cake Eaters knows, Georgiana, who runs BAC, Baryshnikov Art Center. And she was like, I will give them like 5 days for like almost nothing. So we agreed to it. Because what are we going to do? But we still didn't have anywhere near our money. But, once you agree to a location that's that great, and you say you're going to do this, like in a week or two, somehow we raise like another $50,000. Just lunches, calls. Gil Holland, who's made a lot of films, came on, and just people that had been fans of the project or fans of Daphne's or fans of us or who knows. We're like, all right, let's do this. So we had just enough for production, which was amazing, and we shot it. But it was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It was the movie willed itself into being, I have to say, because I don't think any of us. But the universe, at a certain point, the universe just said, you're going to make this film. Because I think Tiffany and I were just like, how we have a kid. There's no way we can take off this much time. We're not getting paid. Like, how are we going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
But the movie was like, no, I'm getting made.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, you're
With or without
making
you.
me.
Yeah.
So that was it. I'm going to make it without you.
I'm getting made.
Yeah, I'm
Dude,
gonna,
I'm
we're
the
gonna make
movie,
this.
and I'm getting made, so you can come along with it, or
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the script, too, I remember you were like, because the script had been Tiny Dancer, which was sort of, had gone through different drafts, but it really hadn't been fully rewritten. And then once we said yes to BAC, your rep, you, everyone, Tiffany, the mouse in the wall was like, where's the new draft? And I was just like, it's coming, it's totally coming. And then it was literally like one of those moments where in a matter of like 2 or 3 weeks of like, I think Tiffany and our son went away to Wisconsin, I was just like, really wrote, showed it to a couple of filmmaker friends, wrote, tried to fix some problems. But it became scripted to the locations that we had.
Right.
Like we had BAC for 5 days, so I was like, that's going to be our second act. And that's just the way it's going to be. Yeah. It's going to be in BAC. And then I knew we had like, Tiffany has a friend that like is the manager of the Hornblower, which is this luxury yacht. So Tiffany had this crazy idea to shoot the gala on a yacht, and everyone was like,
I know.
You're bananas. How are you going to shoot a gala on a yacht? Our DP was like, you're crazy. And somehow it just worked, and it gave us such great production value.
That's where my pants got stolen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if you're listening in,
you know
Thief,
who you are.
you know who you are, exactly. And we're still... She wants
Bring them to Chelsea, New York City.
Just leave them in Chelsea. We'll get them.
Just drop them on a corner, say Daphne Rubin-Vega's jeans. They're extremely nice, and somebody will get them to Daphne.
And she wore them in a tub to get that perfect fit. And
how did you know that?
They were very well tailored.
They were one of a kind.
Oh, and that really bites.
Never mind. Forget it. I don't want to talk.
We don't want to go.
It was in
the New York Post.
I actually have a secret about those pants, and if you're listening, you know what that secret is. No, it's a secret.
Ooh.
That morning or that day that we came onto the Hornblower, I don't even know if you know this, Jayce. I went upstairs to where we were leaving off our clothes and our makeup and our sort of like green room, which was on top of the Hornblower, which was...
On the Lido deck?
It was on the what?
The Lido deck?
The Lido deck. I have no idea. But I walk up there, it's completely empty, not a soul is there, and I see a chip, $1,000 Las Vegas chip. It's a chip, and it says it's $1,000. And I look around, and I pick up the chip, and I put it in my pocket. And then I took my pants off because, I had to work. I had to take my pants off. I had to put on my costume.
Yeah.
And then I left the pants there. So maybe, I don't know.
So this person is wearing your pants $1,000 richer, running around.
Maybe somebody lost the chip, or maybe there was camera. I don't know. Anyway, I totally digress. But isn't that?
It's a good story, though.
It is an interesting story.
Yeah. Somebody at the what is it called? The Borg. What's the name of that?
Cornblower.
No, I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the hotel in Vegas.
Oh, which one?
Yeah, no.
Caesars.
That hotel in Vegas.
Yeah, the big one.
Sands.
Yeah,
Bellagio.
The Bellagio. That's the one I was thinking
Is
of.
that the one you were thinking?
Right. Anyway, so.
But we backed into
keep the chip.
budgets.
Bring the jeans.
Leave
the chip. Bring the jeans.
Leave the chip.
Keep the chip.
Keep the chip.
You can have the chip.
You can have the chip. For God's sake, bring the jeans back.
Yes.
No, I understand how frustrating. You must have been really angry that night. But
because,
I'm so empathetic.
No, these people, they come like Daphne.
I felt violated. That's what it was.
You should, because also on this budget level, it's so extraordinary that Daphne, we had Tamara Tooney in the film, and Cole Suddeth, Katherine Crockett, Desmond Richardson, Cole Suddeth. And he's a very big guy. I don't know if he could fit into your jeans. But they work, under this great low-budget contract. But, Daphne is such a consummate actress that, wardrobe everything to a T. Many fine pieces are hers because she's like, Sheila would wear this. And our designer's like, of course. I mean, that's a Gucci original leopard print dress. And, so when something like that gets stolen, you're just like, as a producer. Fortunately, I have to say we didn't have many mishaps on the film, and I think that was high on the list of mishaps. Some films are just hard.
People die on film sets.
I mean, people get hit by trucks and craziness, but we didn't have any. It was for a low budget film in New York City. Yeah. We did everything the right way, and we were really lucky.
So you had the New York premiere. We know that, right? The first time
fest. Yep.
I know you mentioned a potential distributor for VOD and all.
Yeah.
Maybe digital platforms and all. But are you still in festivals?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to play the Stonybrook Film Festival July 19th. It's a Saturday night. It's in 1,000-seat theater, and they have a great festival.
Wow. Okay.
So we're excited about that, and then we're going to go to Woods Hole up in Cape Cod, end of July. And then, we're waiting to hear from Austin, Toronto, Hamptons. Hopefully we'll get... I think Toronto would be our last big play. Mm-hmm. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But I foresee a year...
hand.
I foresee for those listening, my hand is not fully functional yet.
Yeah.
But it's getting there. It's waving.
Yeah.
But I'm anticipating a year run, and then overseas too. I know we'll get play in some foreign festivals.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But yeah, in the meantime, we're talking to distributors and seeking a theatrical run, and VOD and all that great stuff.
Well, it should play in New York at the very least because it's a New York film, New York cast. It's the dance world. You can get everybody to come out and support. So I think it would
super famous dancers. Desmond Richardson, one of the most famous. Katherine Crockett, who's starring in Queen of the Night. Mm-hmm. Have you been following her social networking about Queen of the Night?
Tell me.
It's incredible. Every day she's like, tonight I dance with Johnny Depp. Last night I danced with Sting. Because I guess she brings somebody out
of the night.
It's the guys, the producers that did Sleep No More, the Macbeth, interactive Macbeth, theater thing. Their new production is Queen of the Night, and Katherine plays the Queen. So she dances at a certain point and selects somebody from the audience. And I guess I have this notion, I haven't seen it yet, that the producers are
they plant
Jude Law is in the first row.
Right. It's
and she lifts
one
Jude
of those
Law.
Scam artists.
Yeah.
Right. They tell you who the person in there. She's got cancer.
Right.
She lives on,
You have cancer.
For the
Your
the
husband
healers,
is living
it's
in
like
Alabama.
A healer scam thing. No, it's good to do that. You need to do that.
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of shows where they've interacted like that with the audience. You know.
How do you like them?
They can work really well, but this sounds like it was.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely
those
a
interactive
relief.
things, they freak me out a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I guess being
It's okay though if the
performer.
person maybe knows ahead of time. I don't know
Yeah.
the audience. I don't know.
But I just have to say that also we haven't even talked about the fact that Katherine, not certainly an actress now, but not having that kind of experience when we made the film, how the two of you worked together, you know, and I think you brought out something in her that was extraordinary, and your patience and, you know, the charisma that you two have, like once you two get together in the film, it just takes off like a rocket. I think it was incredible to watch, and I know she informed, you know, you, but the two of you, and you know, it was an interesting cast of like non-actors but really famous dancers, and like really amazing actors who, you know, aren't dancers.
Dance a lick.
Yeah. So it was an interesting collaboration there, which was, you know, super cool.
Yeah. Their friendship, I mean, it's a wonderful film where she's kind of creating this relationship while her marriage is falling apart also. Or
motherhood,
in motherhood,
you know,
right, of course.
A reluctant mother, you know, not a mean mother or any way.
No.
But just a mother that hasn't figured out
right.
their motherness yet.
Yeah. This is something every usually person now has to deal with, or any parent has to deal with at some point. You know, it's like balancing that out. How does that? What's your identity? How is your identity? You know, how is that evolving? Right? Doesn't.
Yeah. I think for Tiffany, that was, you know, and we became parents in the however many years it took us to make the film. We started out no Jackson, then when we made it Big Jackson. So it was like, I think Tiffany was really interested in this idea of, you know, a mother that just can't connect immediately, and that's something that you don't always see. You know, you either see the psychotic mother, you know what I mean, the sociopathic mother, you know, or the mother that's just loves babies and loves everything and is just blissfully happy. So I think she was interested in this portrayal of a woman that just can't connect at first. And I think that was an interesting balance in the script too, of finding things that, you know, because it was also tricky, like the baby in the film, right? You know, and when we shot it, it had nothing to do with Katherine, but whenever we would hand the baby to Katherine, the baby would start like crying. You know what I mean? And, you know, just because babies are hard, and which made it, I think, more complicated for her. And then in the edit to try to find moments where, you know, it was, you know, nurturing and she was connecting, and you were like, oh, it's not the fact that she's a bad mom, it's just the fact that she knows that she needs to dance again to be happy and to be a good mom. And once she can do that, she can, you know, at the end of the film, the baby's grown and you sense that they're happy. She's husbandless, most likely, but that she's, you know, happy.
She's found the balance.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, the film's called Fall to Rise.
Fall to Rise.
And look for it soon. We'll post this before the next festival, or you let me know which festival you want to
absolutely
plan this around.
Fall to Rise Film.
FallToRiseFilm.com. And Daphne, do you have anything coming up like on the horizon here that we can mention? Anything else?
Well, I am actually going to do Los Monólogos de la Vagina in Spanish at the West Side Theater.
That sounded amazing.
That last part sounds like a familiar
That's
word.
how Mexicans say it. Okay, Los Monólogos de la Vagina.
The vagina monologues.
In Spanish.
Oh, in Spanish?
Yes.
In the original Spanish.
In the original.
Let's just say that. Eve wrote it in the... Eve Ensler wrote that?
Yes.
Yeah. I just endless knowledge of these things. No. Oh, great.
The big
in
deal I was
Chicago,
reading
you
about.
said?
I'm sorry?
Did I just make that up that you said? No, where is it going to be? Here?
Yes, at the West Side Theater.
Oh, at the West Side Theater here in New York. So what about non-Spanish-speaking people? Should they come too?
Bang, come anyway.
Yeah. You can wear. We'll be giving head.
You'll figure it out.
It's the international language.
It is.
Vagina.
Yes. La guia.
Is that the right way to say it?
Vagina.
Vagina. Yeah.
Like hyena.
Just change the G to the H. Next letter.
Vagina.
Yeah.
But
Vagina.
Never mind.
Yeah.
It's going to take me a long time. We'll be here for many more hours.
You got it.
Depends which part of Spain you're in, or Spanish. The Spanish-speaking.
That's correct.
Which
if you're in the tropics or in the Caribbean
Yes.
or South or
Spanish.
North America, you would say it differently.
Va or va or
Ba, va.
yeah.
Hina or
Hina
hina.
or if you're a Jewish, it would be Hina. Well, I'm so glad you're doing that. That's great.
Thank you.
So we'll look for that, and we'll look for Fall to Rise. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you, Jayce, for coming on this thing. And
That's awesome.
We'll come. Please come back. And
We will.
Okay.
Next movie.
Thank you.